There's no doubt Assassin's Creed taps into mythology and legend. With our adventures in Valhalla right around the corner, it was time we took a look at some of the Norse legends that could influence our experience in the game. Hello friends, it's Codiak here, one half of the team behind Legacy Gaming, and today we're going toe-to-toe with the gods and breaking down some of the mythological deities we could encounter in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Norse mythology is filled with wild tales, incredible gods and goddesses, and ultimately the destruction of it all in an event called Ragnarok. During the Viking Age, stories of these gods were flourishing, and many still live on today, and although Assassin's Creed Valhalla promises to deliver a more realistic interpretation of the Viking experience, there's no doubt we'll come face to face with some of the legends of Norse mythology. While not a specific person, Seidr magic is something we'll most likely run into during our adventures in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. A form of shamanistic magic, Seidr is a discerning of fate and working within the structure to bring about change. This idea of weaving fate permeates through Norse culture, and if you dive deeper into the specific gods and goddesses, you'll see it time and time again. Seidr is about seeking knowledge through divination and clairvoyance, and we've already seen some images that lead me to believe this will, in some way, be a part of our Valhalla experience. To be honest, it's as close to magic as we'll see during the Viking Age, and it's the perfect way for Ubisoft to cross into more mystical content while still staying rooted in reality. You can't talk about Norse mythology without talking about Odin, the All-Father. He rules over the Aesir tribe, the umbrella that includes most of the major Norse gods. A prominent figure well before the Viking Age, Odin is a purveyor of wisdom and intelligence, but is immensely complex. What is clear is that the Vikings of the 9th century revered Odin, and he's the closest thing to a divine god you'll likely see that period. We get a glimpse of Odin during a cinematic battle in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. A hooded figure, and then shortly after, a raven, synonymous with the god. While having direct interactions with Odin seems unlikely, it's clear the Ubisoft team is making him a central theme throughout the game. How could you not? Eivor's raven, Sinan, is the eyes and ears in the game, much like Odin's ravens, Hugin and Munin. It's also no surprise that books of knowledge can be found in the game, a clear nod at Odin's voracious search for wisdom. Multiple stories linked back to something called the Mead of Poetry, which imparts on the drinker the ability to recite any information and solve any question. While not exactly the same, books of knowledge grant Eivor access to hidden abilities, and it's a clear line from Odin to Eivor. I have no doubt that Odin references and influences will spring up constantly during Assassin's Creed Valhalla, but it remains to be seen just how much the All-Father will influence our adventures. Odin's most famous son, Thor, is a household name thanks to Marvel Comics and the Marvel movies, but who was he actually to the Norse people? While Odin embodied the cerebral, Thor was the champion of the people, and is most closely associated as the protector of the human race. While many of his characteristics have been blown out of proportion, one thing that does seem to be true is how quick he is to anger. While a defining characteristic of the God of Thunder, he was also integral in daily life and was called upon by humans to hallow or make holy a variety of things. As protector of the Aesir gods, he was also a mighty warrior, and most will recognize his iconic hammer, Mjolnir. This hammer became a symbol during the Viking Age, and much like Christians wear crosses, Vikings began wearing pendants that looked like hammers. Worshipped by common folk, Thor was also instrumental in the promotion of agriculture. Vikings were masterful farmers and looked to Thor to open up the skies and assist the Viking crops. By the end of the Viking era, the name Thor was so common that roughly a quarter of the 4,000 people mentioned in the Icelandic Book of Settlements shared his name, a clear example of how important he was to the Nordic people. How he appears in Assassin's Creed Valhalla, I haven't the slightest clue, but we've already seen footage of another Thor in the form of a mini-boss, so maybe this is just a taste of how often and how important Thor is throughout the Viking Age. We mentioned Ragnarok before, and I think it's a good time we revisit that concept. The word means fate of the gods in Old Norse and is a series of cataclysmic events that ultimately result in the decimation of the world. While I don't think Valhalla will end with the world on fire, we did get a glimpse at some images that make me believe the devs will be flirting with the concept in one way or another. Two creatures, Fenrir, a giant wolf, and Jormungand, a massive sea serpent, are intimately linked with this event. And would you look at that, certainly looks like a massive earth-shattering creature to me. Again, shamanistic magic is definitely going to be the way we experience these encounters, whether they be cutscenes or actual combat. Assassin's Creed Origins and Odyssey opened the floodgates when it comes to fighting mystical creatures, and I have no doubt that Valhalla will be the same. Both Fenrir and Jormungand are enemies of the gods, and thus enemies of the Vikings, and as a Viking clan leader, and I'm sure by the end of our adventures, champion of the Viking people, it'll be our job, willing or not, to confront these ultimate evils and save the world from Ragnarok. If you dive deep enough into Ubisoft's more wacky promotional videos for the game, you'll actually see Fenrir make an appearance. I have no doubt we'll be staring down these God of War-sized creatures at some point during our Valhalla adventures, whether it be during Ragnarok or some drug-induced Seidr fantasy. With superhuman strength, the Jotunn or Frost Giants have already made their presence known in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Living in one of the 9 realms and constantly menacing the human race, it's no wonder the Ubisoft team saw fit to include them in the game. It also looks like we'll be traveling to Jotunheim, an icy landscape filled with dangers, but also immense treasures like Mimir's Well, a source of infinite wisdom. How we get here and why we need to kill the Frost Giants, well, that is still a mystery, but we can see it clear as day, so sharpen that axe and get ready to cut down some giants. There are dozens of gods and goddesses we could dive into, but to be honest, I don't think there's much of a chance we'll see many of them in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. However, I did want to end with the Valkyries, spiritual helpers of the god Odin, and the noble maidens that bring dead heroes to Valhalla. With so much bloodshed occurring in the game, it only makes sense that in some way they make an appearance. I can see it now. Some major ally of Eivor is slain in battle, and as the dust settles, a host of Valkyries come down from on high and lift the warrior to Valhalla. I know it's corny, but let's be honest here, that's what makes mythology, well, mythology. It also interests me that the Valkyries have a much more sinister role in pagan history. While they're often the shining example of strength and nobility, their reverence is much darker. Valkyries not only got to choose who entered Valhalla, but also which warriors died on the field of battle. We talked about weaving fate before, and in the legends, Odin would send down these warriors to decide the fate of mankind. Out of all the gods and goddesses, I do think Valkyries have a good chance of showing up at some point in the game, which is why I included them on this list. There's a reason Ubisoft chose Valhalla for the name of this game. Where there's brutal realism, there is also a magnificent mythos, and the team known for putting Medusa and Anubis in previous Assassin's Creed games would hardly pass on the chance to introduce us to even more legends. Reaching Asgard isn't just a possibility, it's a probability, and running into some of the legends of Norse mythology isn't just a matter of if, but when. As someone fascinated with the Viking Age, I can't wait to see how the team weaves the world together and puts us face to face with the gods. We hope you enjoyed this deep dive into the mythology behind Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Legacy Gaming plans on covering Assassin's Creed top to bottom, so if you like our videos and want more great content in your feed, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. And while you're at it, consider joining us on Discord. We have over 6,000 members spread across dozens of great games, so click that link below and join today. My name is Codiak, and from everyone here at Legacy Gaming, thanks for watching, and play on.